a kick in the teeth for campaigners given the university's negligence since taking over the Glass Centre, and will feel like a kick in the teeth for glassmakers after sacking ceramics and glassmaking staff. Local people, staff, glassmakers, students, visitors to Sunderland deserve better than this, and they deserve better than this council's complacency and neglect. There's still time to save the National Glass Centre. The campaign group and experts have challenged the widely touted figure that the £45 million is needed to save the centre, and believe that figure bandied about by the university to be disingenuous. There are other options that could be explored. All that we need is the political will from this Labour Party to want to work constructively with campaigners to examine all the alternatives, and I hope they will do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Edgeworth. Councillor Mullen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I actually hadn't originally planned to speak on this, but I've been asked to read out a speech on behalf of a councillor who can't be here at this meeting, but who I think we all recognise as a vociferous campaigner for the Glass Centre. I'd like to reassure the campaign group that he's not able to be here for sincere reasons, but the speech that I'm about to read out on behalf of Councillor Denny Wilson is equally sincere. For a long time, North Area councillors have been concerned about the decline in visitor numbers to the National Glass Centre based in our North Area. To remedy this, we offered funding to install a pontoon next to the Glass Centre, facilitating upriver cruises, round-the-pier boat trips and a cross-river ferry. According to world-respected experts, this would have increased the footfall to the Glass Centre by many thousands. The university refused this free offer twice. What business doesn't want potentially thousands of new customers? When the tall ships race was on, North Area councillors asked the City Council to leave in place the pontoon that they had installed next to the Glass Centre. The City Council refused and removed it. Why did the City Council not want to help the National Glass Centre towards financial sustainability and at the same time enhance the city's tourism and culture offer? It appears that neither the university nor the City Council want a thriving, sustainable National Glass Centre. Did somebody deliberately want it to fail? Who will benefit from this failure? Smells to me like we should have a public inquiry. For those watching who don't understand the significance of this, a Labour councillor is openly questioning the sincerity of the Labour group, the council, and its commitment to the National Glass Centre, going as far as to state that the council does not want the Glass Centre to succeed. This motion is intentionally non-political, and I've granted all councillors in the Conservative group an unwhipped vote in order to encourage other parties to do the same. Denny Wilson isn't alone, of course. Graham Miller publicly supported the National Glass Centre campaign at the annual meeting, and other Labour councillors have privately remarked in meetings with James Doyle that they also support both the Glass Centre in general and this motion specifically. Oddly, none of them are currently in the room. There are serious questions to be answered about the funding shortfall that exists, and hopefully we will now get those answers based on what we've just agreed. And part of this motion is about seeking transparency around the finances of both the National Glass Centre and the new development. When we put together the last opposition budget, we were advised then that the purchase of the Glass Centre would need to be done with the negotiation of the university. So even to think about the commencement of public ownership, we need first of all the facts in order to fully understand the true repair and operating costs to do that. The loss of the Glass Centre, as Denny Wilson reminds us, would be a big blow to the north of Sunderland in particular. It has more visitors per annum than any attraction in the city, other than the Stadium of Light, and that will naturally have a knock-on effect on the wider tourist economy of both Roker and Seaburn. Independent cafes and bars, for example, will suffer as a result of reduced footfall. It's also unclear what the future of glassmaking skills will be. There's no plan set out to protect the art of glassmaking that has existed for so long in Roker and Monk Wearmouth. And the skills abandonment is not just destructive to people whose jobs and livelihoods have already been affected, but a betrayal of the rich heritage of that area. So I'll finish with this question in the spirit of Denny Wilson's own ending. What did Labour have to hide when they tried to amend this to the point of it not being this motion anymore? There is no downside to asking these questions and providing the answers. The Save the Glass Centre campaign group can't be dismissed as far-right thugs or similar. They are educated local professionals who care deeply about this asset and seek transparency about its future. There's no doubt that there's a cross-party consensus in private, but I do wonder why Labour took so long to admit it in public. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mullen. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think first I just want to clarify a few points. I've heard a few times tonight that the visitor numbers for the Glass Centre is around 230,000. Sunderland Culture have confirmed today the visitor rates for 24-25 were just over 80,000. So that's two-thirds less than the figures you're using.
Figures are the figures.
But the figures are the figures.
Members of the public, could we please allow the councillor to finish?
I think some other things, talking about depleting the environment over on the north of the river, I'll bring your attention to investment made in sheepfolds and Riverside. So there is investment going into that part of the city. And my last one is that where were the Conservative councillors lobbying their government 2 years ago when the decision to make the Glass Centre was announced?
Indeed. Indeed.
The reason why we were going to amend the motion is because we have funding for Glassworks. I don't want to jeopardise that because let's go back 6 months. The glassmaking was just going to be completely taken off the map altogether until this government came forward with a proactive solution. But I'll speak to the motion. So I rise this evening not in disregard of our history, but in defence of the future. So, you know, the concept of saving the Glass Centre kind of romanticises heritage without confronting the hard, practical truths of sustaining it. And while we all hold affection for the National Glass Centre and it's a contribution to our city's identity, we must balance nostalgia with responsibility. The centre has faced years of consistent operating losses and is now burdened with significant repair costs. Even if there are queries over the quotes, which hopefully the amended motion will reveal, the costs to repair the building far outweigh any funding commitments that we have both from the UK Government and the North East Combined Authority. But colleagues, preserving heritage does not mean freezing it in its position. It means evolving. It means remaining relevant and resilient. The proposal to shift the glassmaking provision to Sunnyside is not abandonment, it is transformation. It's about ensuring that Sunderland continues to lead in its strong history of glassmaking with facilities that are fit for the future. If we wish to preserve our heritage, which is a lot of the theme that has came through tonight, then let us not treat our cultural institutions as untouchable relics. The National Glass Centre, for all its legacy, has become unsustainable, hemorrhaging money and crumbling under the weight of repairs. Yet rather than seek solutions, the opposition's line has been to grandstand, deflect and issue demands as if interrogating a scapegoat rather than engaging in strong, robust leadership. Let's not forget our government's...
Point of order, Mayor Sunderland.
Councillor.
A matter of personal clarification on this point. Beth Jones says the opposition have been failing to engage in this openly. The last time that this matter was discussed in full council is the time when Michael Mordy refused to answer any questions, said that the information would be made available to the council when he saw fit, told the opposition that we're opposition councillors and we ought to be treated like opposition. The council, along with the university, has failed to engage openly and transparently and fairly and collegiately in this debate from the start. You're wrong, Beth.
Councillor Niall Hodgson. Since I became mayor, I have religiously been through the council procedure rules. When it comes to points of personal clarification, it's about statements that were made in this meeting that you believe another member has misunderstood. So obviously you're talking about another meeting. I understand that. You will have your chance to speak, but if you don't mind, I will let the councillor finish. Thank you. Councillor Harry Truman.
In return to Councillor Hodgson, I've been around a long time, probably longer than I should have been. And I remember when the opposition not only called the Glass Centre a white elephant, but actually made loads of proposals to sell the port.
Right. Thank you for your contribution, Councillor Harry Truman. Same point to yourself. So points of clarification must be about things that happened in this meeting that you believe another councillor has misunderstood. Thank you. Councillor Jones, would you like to finish? On what rule, Councillor Edgeworth?
My party has just been, by Councillor Truman there, accused of things that we have not done in our motions. He may have been confusing us with the Conservatives, who are not the official opposition anymore. Thank you.
Councillor Jones, can you please continue?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And I will point out that on no occasion has any member across there sent me an email, phoned me. I would have been more than happy to engage in conversations. The Save the Campaign of the Glass Centre people reached out and I have met with them. So I'll get back to what I was saying. So we should be backing innovations like Glassworks, Sunderland's proposal, not dismissing it because it's different. Moving forward does not mean abandoning heritage. It means honour it in ways that actually work today, but that requires courage, not caution. Mr Mayor, today we stand at the intersection of legacy and progress. The Labour government's commitment to fund Glassworks Sunderland is not merely an investment in bricks and mortar, it is an investment in identity, creativity and community. Pausing our ambitions at the present time unfortunately stalls progress, creates uncertainty with future funders and potentially jeopardises any project at all to keep glassmaking in our city. I was able to meet with some of the people from the Save the National Glass Centre campaign recently and spoke with a few tonight and heard firsthand the personal and emotional attachments and connections that they have with the centre. And during that meeting I explained that when I came in as the Cabinet Member for Culture, one of my top priorities was to ensure that our rich history of glassmaking was preserved and developed for many more years to come. And so I was naturally delighted when the announcement came from the government. But I gave my commitment to the Save the National Glass Centre campaign group that I will continue to work with them going forward, utilising their skills and expertise. And that commitment still remains. And I look forward to meeting with them all again soon to discuss things through further. And I'll just say your passion for glassmaking shines through, and I really want you to be on the journey with us. I'll just finish by saying that for centuries, Sunderland has been synonymous with glass. From the glow of the furnace to the shimmer of the finished craft, it's a story written in fire and skill, passed through generations. But heritage alone cannot sustain a future. It must be nurtured, renewed and imagined. And that's precisely what the Glassworks project will do. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jones, for your contribution. Councillor Phil-Tighe.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And again, I speak in support of the motion. What I want to do is put to bed any conspiracy theories that have been suggested tonight that the Labour group tried to make amendments to the motion for various reasons. What I want to do is just clarify the reasons why. I think the reality of the documents that have been sent out by the campaign group were a bit hard-hitting to me, to be fair. I was quite took back by the architect's report and I didn't copy all councillors in, so the comment that we didn't take notice, we didn't reply, or we didn't come out publicly, I actually did contact the gentleman direct to try and understand that. And I was quite took back by, I actually got to the end of reading that report and went back to the beginning because I thought, how have the campaign group managed to have an architect to go into the university and do this report, because I couldn't believe that what we'd heard in the past about the condition of the building, this report was actually saying, in some regards, the opposite. Now, I think it is fair to say that there's absolutely lots of questions to be asked, not just about how it's being maintained and how it's being managed, but also about its build. And there's lots of comments and questions in there in relation to the, and I work in the construction industry, so I do get it, the type and grade of steel used on its exterior, why galvanised wasn't simply used from the beginning. So I think there is lots and lots of questions to be asked. But I'm going to be really honest to council and to the campaigners. The additional things that we've put back into the motion, or agreed to put back into the motion tonight, the reality of what we're saying is we're going to ask the Chief Executive to write to the university and ask 4 questions, and the Chief Executive is going to write a report. The report based on what information he has available and what he can get hold of. And I'm not convinced that's going to save the Glass Centre, because I think that's a different kettle of fish, while it's in the university's ownership. Now, that's not to say for 1 minute that the people sitting here amongst us don't want that to be saved, because if there is a way to save that, then it should be saved. Until its ownership is clarified, we believe that it is the university. I think Councillor Hartnack views possibly differ from that, and time will tell, because that does absolutely need clarifying. But I think there is lots and lots of questions, even with this notice of motion, about where we are with it. If it can be saved, who's going to fund it? Can the council be expected to have to find the money to fund that? So there is lots and lots of questions, but that's not to say that the building shouldn't be saved by somebody, and it shouldn't be restored back if that is at all possible. Now, what we're saying after all of these steps, so if we follow the hierarchy, if it cannot be saved, then we have to have an alternative to maintain something in this city celebrating our glass history, because it just goes back far too much in time to do nothing. So I just want it to be absolutely clear that is our position. And I'm not going to say for 1 minute that where you have a group of people in any way, shape or form, there will always be debate, discussions, and you get to a position. That's where we got to previous in the position. You saw how quickly we've come together to make a decision to support, because the first paragraph in the notice of motion, for me, was the most important one to say. The council regrets the decision taken by the university. Absolutely, we do. Every single person in this room. Do the questions to be asked in the report save the Glass Centre? And I've got to be honest and hold my hands up and say, I'm not convinced it will. I haven't got the answers though. I can't tell you what the alternative answer is, how we do go about that, what the campaign group can do, what the council can do when it's not within ownership. I honestly don't know. Are we too far down the line? Don't know. Is a judicial review the only thing that saves it? Probably. Who's going to fund the judicial review? No idea. Thanks very much, Council.
Thank you, Councillor Tai, for your contribution. Councillor Kelly-Checker.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I thank you for your patience with us whilst we got us to this point of the meeting. I just wanted to add, I know that there's lots of people wanting to speak. I think it's really important, the point that Councillor Tai has just made, and that this Labour group fundamentally and wholeheartedly supports the basis of this original notice of motion and our amendment, which was ruled out, which was supporting and preserving Sunderland's glassmaking heritage and understanding that it is vital to our cultural offer as well as our economic growth ambitions. I'm not particularly minded to go into some of the suggestions that Councillor Edgeworth has made, but I have to say that the suggestion of not being able to take us at our word and that there are decisions being made behind closed doors is something that I fundamentally object to. One of the things that I stand here for, and I know that Councillor Jones in her position on this, is our transparency and our wholehearted support for this campaign. Councillor Jones has outlined in her excellent speech there her commitment. And when you talk about political will, I think that this is an opportunity to allow Councillor Jones and her commitment, this Labour group and our commitment to follow through on what we believe is a proactive solution to ensure that our glassmaking heritage is preserved and continues to represent innovation and rejuvenation. We want to continue to lead and have Sunderland lead in that world-class reputation for glassmaking, and we are absolutely committed to that. And Councillor Jones, as she said, has demonstrated that through meeting with the campaign group. And I really liked the point that she made, which was that moving forward does not mean abandoning heritage, and I think that's the point that you need to hold us to on this. I do thank you for your time in allowing us to come to a consensus, Councillor Mullen, and I think that the proof of the pudding now is going to be as we move forward, and I look forward to us being able to do that in a positive and proactive way. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Checker. Councillor Hodgson?
Thank you, Mayor Sunderland. In relation to what Beth Jones and Kelly Checker have had to say, what I would say is if you have to say that you're transparent, you probably aren't. I would also say that what I'm hearing from the leadership of this council is an abdication of responsibility. If it wasn't for Sunderland's Labour Council, there probably wouldn't be a glass centre in the first place. But that's gradually been handed over to the university, responsibility handed over completely. And what we're hearing is it's not our problem now. And that really is regrettable. A lot of the conversation this evening is about the National Glass Centre. I just want to speak for a moment about the Northern Gallery for Contemporary Art. I had to look this up because I work in art galleries and have done for most of my life. And I went to one of the earliest exhibitions I saw that really got me into art. I saw at the Northern Gallery for Contemporary Art when it was on Fawcett Street. It was Chris O'Feely in 1997, British painter. He won the Turner Prize the following year in 1998, following a really significant show of his work at the Northern Gallery for Contemporary Art in Sunderland. That gallery has a fantastic collection and an extraordinary history going back to 1969 of exhibiting and collecting contemporary art in this city. It has been shuttled around and shoved into buildings in a very makeshift fashion. And it remains, unfortunately, a footnote in this whole debate, what happens to Sunderland's groundbreaking involvement in the contemporary art scene. And we shouldn't let that be forgotten. We haven't been told what happens to its collection. We haven't been told who will own it, who will manage it, who will look after it for posterity, and we need clarity on that. My colleague Paul Edgeworth mentioned the smoke and mirrors approach of both the university and the council. And I don't understand the lack of transparency around this project. It would be perfectly reasonable to say that the Glass Centre site needs redevelopment, the building needs redevelopment, and have an open conversation. But that has not happened from the start. You cannot deny that because we still don't know a lot of answers about what is happening at that site. That is why this motion, I mean, frankly, it's far too late. But why we're still trying to debate the facts whilst history has already taken its course. The motion says regrets the decision. I would be stronger. I mean, I personally despair. I think this will be one of the worst things that's happened while I've been a councillor that I feel like I could and should have been able to make an impact on. I can only imagine how it would feel if I was actually in a position of running the council to have this on my conscience. But I don't only despair about it, I condemn it. And I think when I look at my interactions with the university as a ward councillor, we've had a bloody nightmare with the university's abdication from student housing, which has caused a small-scale housing crisis in places like Millfield, Pally and Hendon, the city centre. But then this same university that's shutting down the Glass Centre, in March was parading a 10 million new campus building in London, a university which advertises itself as a transnational university, delivering degree courses in Malaysia, Hong Kong, Oman, Singapore, Trinidad and Tobago, Kenya, Uzbekistan and Vietnam. This organisation doesn't give I'm just struggling to swear, this organisation couldn't care less about Southwick or Roker or Monk Wearmouth. It is patently clear. And we aren't doing enough to stand up to them at all. What I worry about as well, with the university, with the council, is what is left, because the other thing that isn't spoken about in this whole debate is what happens to Sunderland Culture, which this Labour Council set up, a perfectly reasonable organisation that would be a leading light for cultural provision in this city. Now, the Mac Trust is one of the founder members of that. They seem to be running their own private arts operation from the fire station, no involvement of Sunderland Culture. The council is part of that Sunderland Culture organisation, but is the Culture House being run by Sunderland Culture, or is it another cultural arm of the council? The university is part of that Sunderland Culture operation, but it's abandoning the Glass Centre in the Northern Gallery for Contemporary Art. This is why we're asking the council and the university to come clean on exactly what its cultural programme is, because you don't have to be, you don't have to be keeping up with the facts massively clearly to realise that it's falling to bits. The individual partners are removing themselves from the operation, and the things that are going to fall between the cracks are the art provision, the collections, the council, the teaching, the exhibitions. We will lose it. And we'll lose it because we're pussyfooting around and failing to make a decision about budgets that we are responsible for. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Councillor Hodgson, for that contribution. Councillor Lynn Dagg.
Right, I'm speaking now, so can I just thank the council for allowing me to speak on this. The first thing I'd like to say is my family is one of those that actually has a really proud heritage of glassmaking, right? My great-great-grandmother actually was an ornamental glassmaker. My aunt worked at Pyrex and she worked at Cornings. It's really important to me that actually the sports ground for Corning is actually located where, well, in South Hilton, within my ward. I'm really proud of Sunderland's glassmaking history. I'm really proud of the heritage. I should say at this point that I am declaring a slight interest because in the past I have worked for the University of Sunderland, but I think it's important for me to actually also say I have no links currently with the university. That's why I'm not excusing myself from this. At times, the Glass Centre cafeteria has been one of the best things at the St Peter's campus. It's allowed people to go off campus and actually sit and actually relax and have lunch, and actually do so as teams and groups. That's really, really important sometimes. And I certainly did find that it was a real benefit. My niece actually worked at the Glass Centre as a waitress. It was one of her first jobs. And I feel great affinity with the Glass Centre because many family occasions will be celebrated there. You know, my father's 90th birthday party, it actually took place at the Glass Centre. Nobody can take that away from me. Nobody can actually take that actual glass tradition and Glass Centre tradition away. But that's not to say that I actually think that the university is perfect, and it's not to say that I think it's been maintained as well as it should be, and it's certainly not to say that I actually don't have sympathy with the glass campaigners, particularly the desire to actually keep the centre. And I'd echo the words of Phil Tighe when I actually say I would like to see it maintained. I would obviously like to see it maintained, but essentially I don't think it will be. I wish it was, but I don't think it will be because I don't think that the university will actually meet the demands. And I think it's really, really sad, I mean very sad, that the university has taken the view that it has. The Glass Centre should be shorn away and actually forgotten. But we are not the university. We are the City Council. I'm not actually at a governor's meeting of the University of Sunderland, and neither are you. They're the people who actually will make the decision about the Glass Centre. Right? If you want to keep it open, really go along to their meetings and actually put forward the proposals that you actually made to us. Okay? Yeah. You've tried, but it actually hasn't worked. You know, you've actually come to us, but we're not the University of Sunderland, and we won't be making the decision as to what happens to the Glass Centre. I wish we were. I think you'd get a lot of sympathy. But right now, that's not the way of the world. And I think that, unfortunately, and I would love the university to actually keep it open, but I don't think it's going to. And I've got to be honest, that while I support many aspects of the campaign, I don't see that it's actually going to be successful. And I regret that. But can I just say thank you for allowing me to speak in this debate, and I certainly will be voting in support.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Harry Truman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm delighted that we've got a cross-party agreement on saving glassmaking in Sunderland. I'm not going to talk about the building. The complications there have been well highlighted. And the reason I'm delighted in saving glassmaking is the revelation of what I see being made in glass down at the Glass Centre. When I left school, I wanted to be a motor mechanic. And as you know, I'm a petrolhead. So I started my apprenticeship. My father was working at James A. Jopling. James A. Jopling was the very beginning of Pyrex and glassmaking in Sunderland. They were paying fantastic wages. They looked after a lot of people, they looked after the staff. And my father got me into working at Pyrex, James A. Jopling as it was. I was employed making glass for the industry, the chemical industry, but also down in the blownware, we were making tableware and ovenware. Now, I've heard from the opposition about the sand coming into the docks and the industry and making the glass. Pyrex never made coloured glass like it is being made now. We attempted a tableware which was successful called opalware, which was a white glass, and you probably got dinner services and casseroles and that in your kitchen. The other one that we tried was a brown glass which was made into a frying pan, and they weren't successful. The glass got too hot, you put your bacon in and it stuck. So Pyrex have we never made coloured glass. So the coloured glass I'm seeing being made now, into the shapes that's being made, is tremendous. And I've actually had a go down at the Glass Centre making a vase. And I was pretty successful. I've still got the knack. And it is a skill. It's an art that we should never lose. So I'm absolutely delighted that glassmaking will remain in Sunderland. And I just want to finish and remind you again, I was a little bit uptight, a little bit upset when I got up earlier, but you need to remember back. The opposition always wanted the council to get rid of the port. And it wasn't making money for a long time. It was in the red. But this Labour group, or the previous Labour group, leaders before that, we stuck by the port. And it is what it is now. And if the port hadn't remained, God knows what would have been down there. And I think far less, there wouldn't have been glassmaking. But I am supporting the motion. I'm absolutely delighted that if we can get glassmaking remaining to be made in Sunderland. Thank you.
Point of order, Mr Mayor.
On what rule?
Point of personal clarification. We've never opposed, supported selling off the Port of Sunderland. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your contribution. Councillor Martin Heron.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And I've had to completely rewrite my speech. Let me start by saying I've visited and enjoyed the Glass Centre in the past. I remember walking on the roof with my father, who was terrified of heights and having to carry him off when he looked down through the glass. And I also have happy memories of visiting the Northern Gallery of Contemporary Art in its previous location in Fawcett Street. And I hope there is room for both of these things in the 21st century regenerated Sunderland. Like other people in the room, I have family connections to Sunderland's glass industry that my parents met at Cornans. If they hadn't worked there, they would never have met, and you'd be looking at an empty space. right now. And I actually worked in a small glass blowers myself for a while. I know how to make a ship in a bottle. I do have some concerns regarding some of the tone and language about the university used by some speakers tonight. I would point out to Councillor Hodgson that, you know, UK students at Sunderland University, 62% of those are from the North East area. So I don't see that as the University of Sunderland not caring about Sunderland and the north of England. I'm pleased to see we've reached a compromise tonight, and I'm happy to support the motion as amended. And I hope that both the Glass Centre and the Centre for Contemporary Art continue as part of Sunderland's fast-growing cultural offer. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor David Newey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak today to this motion and to speak about the 1,300-year history of glassmaking, particularly as the councillor for Roker, where the Glass Centre is. And I want to take the opportunity to thank the members of the Save the National Glass Centre campaign for being here and for fighting tirelessly. And as I said to some of them earlier, and I've said to them before and through our MP, I am always transparently, there is an offer to meet with you and work with you, and I would always do that, and that offer goes forward after this meeting and after today. You know, they pose a series of important questions, as they've detailed in this document, and they shouldn't be avoided. Scrutiny of the university certainly shouldn't be avoided, and I'm glad that we've agreed a motion which moves forward on some of those points, even as Councillor Ty says, if we don't know the outcome of it, having the ability to have that level of scrutiny is incredibly important. I visit the Glass Centre regularly. I go there with my son, my 8-year-old son, who loves it. I've known a lot of people that have studied there and have been through it, who have resided in Sunderland and have come from elsewhere, and it's been a celebrated part of Roker for many years. It's important that as we move forward, all of that great work that has taken place in and around the Glass Centre does continue, and also that Roker continues to feel economic benefits, which I know is something that you've mentioned. I want to be absolutely clear, whatever happens to the Glass Centre, this can't be the end of glassmaking in Sunderland, not for our city, and not for our cultural future. Let's remember what glassmaking in Sunderland means. It isn't just a tourist attraction or a university-owned building. It's the story of who we are, our industrial past, our creative spirit, our resilience, and a way in which artists, students, and families and visitors around the world have come to Sunderland. So there are clear priorities as the work we must do now. £5 million is a significant and fundamental investment by the Labour government into the continuation of glassmaking in this city, and I celebrate that ambition, which has ensured that this happens. We are attempting to find solutions. We must make sure that artists that are currently resident at the Glass Centre are ensured continual support regardless of what happens. Making a living out of arts and culture, as you know, is hard enough, and they deserve support to ensure that Sunderland remains a cultural hub for them, working in glass throughout any period of change, and they should not be put at any disadvantage. As I've said, I also agree that we shouldn't shy away from scrutiny of the university. I have met with the university leadership on this. I've met with the Vice-Chancellor and the Financial Officer, Director of Finances, and I will continue to, and I'm happy to try and inform any meetings and help with any meetings that you would want to as well. I've also continuously tried to engage with residents of Roker who will be affected by this change, including those that live in Topcliffe and areas around the Glass Centre that may be affected by this moving forwards. They deserve full and continuing representation, and I'll ensure that they get this. I'll also be working alongside colleagues to ensure that glass exhibits and education remain available to the Roker community, accessible to all. Links to our heritage and the story of glassmaking in Sunderland are incredibly important to be maintained, and I'll fight for that to happen. This should be woven all the way through our communities. And those communities are important because we do need a plan that ensures glassmaking is accessible by all in all our communities in every part of Sunderland, regardless of economic background or location. I do have to say, though, I'm glad that we've reached a cross-party consensus, but I do have to say that this kind of thing doesn't happen in isolation. And the wider political context is 14 years of Tory austerity, cutting funding to cutting funding to the arts, cultural institutions and heritage institutions. And that's why we end up where we do. And it's good to see that this Labour government, regardless of how we move forward, is investing £5 million when we asked the Tory government again and again for money and were refused it. And because we believe that culture matters and civic pride matters and that heritage, education and craft matters, and through that investment, we'll continue to ensure that it continues. We'll work tirelessly to ensure that glassmaking endures, that investment is maintained, and that Sunderland and Roker continues to proudly demonstrate its glassmaking history and its future to the world. And I look forward to meeting you and working with you on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Point of order, Mr Mayor. Point of order, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Kelly-Checker.
Under Section 1, Rules of Procedure 14.1, Part J, can I suggest that the question now be put?
Would you just give me one moment, Councillor Checker, while I seek some advice? Thank you. Council, there is only one more person to speak, Councillor Feely, and then after that, Councillor Hartnack has the right of reply. So I will let that happen. Councillor Feely?
Hey, looks like I'm going to be allowed to speak. Thank you. I will keep it very short. I just want to say thank you to my two constituents, who I can see one there and, hey, the one there. Two people came to my surgery last Saturday to talk to me and Councillor Chapman about this issue, which I found very eye-opening. I've only been a councillor 1 year, so this is something that I've not really been aware of. I know that it has been an issue, but I haven't been on the council for very long. So I spent a lot of time thinking about it, and I did come to the conclusion that we should be doing something to support it. I know I look like I'm 5-year-old. I did go to school trips there, and it wasn't last week. Thank you very much, Councillor, for laughing at that. But no one's really talked about the impact of, if we lost this, of education for the kids. For me, I did try and find it. I couldn't find it. I did make quite a lot of stuff at the Glass Centre. And when I saw Councillor Hartnack called something up, I thought you were going to hold up something that you created. But I made loads of stuff at the Glass Centre as a child. And I thought it was really good for me to be able to do that, and for the cultural side and the art side. So for me, I just can't believe we find ourselves in this situation at this particular point. But I just want to reiterate my thank you to the constituents for coming along, taking the time. We spent a long time, I think it was nearly an hour, debating this. We debated a lot of topics. I got put through my paces, but thank you for coming along. I do appreciate it, and I'll wrap it up there.
Councillor Hartnack.
I'll make this quite quick, because there's little more I need to say as my right to reply, other than on this side of the chamber hasn't already been said. But there's a couple of things I would like to raise. First of all, Councillor Jones says that repair costs are too high. The council haven't done any surveys, so how do you know? And you certainly haven't scrutinised them closely enough. And by the way, the council failed to enforce planning regulations when the university made major structural changes without planning permission, leading to the damage to the facade and closure. Partial and full problems were caused to that building as a consequence of the negligence of this particular council in not dealing with it properly. The only way to save this building, or one of the only ways to save this building, is to do what we've done in the past with buildings like Joplings, where it doesn't fit the agenda of the council, and compulsorily purchase it. This is a big step towards transparency, and I thank the National Glass Centre campaign group. I thank James Doyle and Denny Wilson and all those who have fought for this. But I'd like to raise 2 points for David Newey. For a start, the Conservatives were the ones that funded Culture House. And also you said you'll facilitate meetings now, but where were you when you were needed by the campaign group? Finally, we will expose the funding, ownership and repair and refurbishment arrangements and make this public.
Mr Mayor, point of personal clarification.
Councillor David Newey.
Thank you. I've engaged a number of times, and whenever I've asked, I've responded to, and I've also done that through the Member of Parliament as well. So just a point of clarification that I've attended any meeting and that I'm more than happy to, as I mentioned in my speech, moving forward. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, David. Councillor Hartnett, will you please continue?
That point of clarification is accepted, Mr Mayor. Much has already been lost, but once we have this information, we can stop the decline of the heritage in Roker and Monguimouth. The commitments we have received from Labour must be honoured. Conservatives will ensure that they are. But why has Labour tried to trash this motion and make it a self-congratulatory message about themselves? Remember always that Labour's first instinct was to try and hide the facts. Now it's time for full transparency. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you very much. Does Council agree? Is the substantive motion agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much.
Point of order.
Councillor Anthony Mullen, on what rule, if you don't mind me asking?
Under 14.1c, can I propose bringing the crime emergency motion to now, given that the family has waited a lot longer than we expected?
Agreed.
Is that seconded?
Yes, Mr Mayor.
Is that agreed by Council?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Council, if you would just give me 1 minute while I just get the relevant papers. Thank you. We will now deal with the notice of motion, which is titled Sunderland's Crime Emergency. I call upon Councillor Mullen to read and move the motion. Councillor Mullen.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Council declares that a crime wave has engulfed parts of Sunderland in recent months and that residents increasingly feel a sense of lawlessness. Reasons for this include instances of arson, vandalism, drug-taking and ASB in Barnes Park in recent weeks, a worsening situation with off-road bikes and illegal bikes, most recently including the regrettable death of an innocent woman, Gloria Stevenson. Little progress on tackling speeding and illegal parking, particularly since the Conservative group motion calling for action on this matter, including new speed cameras. Masses of fly tipping dumped with no regard for our communities. Graffiti which blights local areas and feeds into a sense of a society with no rules. In response to this, Council agrees senior officers should make tackling ASB, preventing speeding and illegal parking their #1 priority, that the Chief Executive will write to the Police and Crime Commissioner to ask on a cross-party basis for an update to full Council in response to this motion and a revision of her policing priorities to enhance policing in Sunderland. The Chief Executive should consider deploying market pay supplements to increase the number of traffic wardens and ASB enforcement officers employed by the Council. In all instances of enforcement, the Council should adopt the most punitive approach that the law allows in each instance it makes interventions, and to introduce park and cemetery wardens as an additional resource to tackle these issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mullen. Councillor Reid, do you second the motion?
I second the motion, Mr Mayor, and I'd like to speak immediately after Councillor Mullen.
Thank you. Councillor Mullen, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. At a previous meeting in response to the Conservative group on matters of community safety, Councillor Checker said, the action that we are taking speaks for itself. In recent weeks, the actions taken by thugs and feral youths across the city and the inaction by some authorities have spoken for themselves. Most tragic of all in this wave of crimes is the unnecessary death of Gloria Stevenson, whose life was taken because somebody decided that the law did not apply to them and that they have no responsibility, only entitlements in our society. That attitude, increasingly common, has now taken a life. Across the city, residents report a growing sense of lawlessness, and of particular interest to me is the crime wave that has hit Barnes Park over the last few weeks. Anybody who watched the news last night will have been unable to avoid me talking about it. The second issue is Chester Road, which over the last 6 months has progressively got worse. And I've raised both of these matters with the Chief Executive, Police and relevant officers of the Council. To that end, I want to start by thanking Neil Corner and Michelle Coates, both of this Council, who have been excellent in their responsiveness and their effectiveness. And I'm grateful particularly to Neil for attending residents' meetings in the evening, beyond his normal working hours. In Barnes Park, we have seen in recent weeks, in this order, the vandalism of the toilets, twice, ripping out and destruction of trees, drug taking in the bushes, off-road bikes being driven towards pedestrians, often by people who are high on drugs, at least 6 incidents of arson, and most worryingly, of late, the slaughter of animals with knives and slingshots. On one occasion, I was so disturbed by the prospect of another fire occurring that upon receiving a report of a bonfire pile having been built from a resident, I crawled into the bushes myself and dismantled it, ready for the council to come and collect it. Residents might not ordinarily expect to see their councillor carrying discarded wooden doors through the park, but desperate times call for desperate measures. I'm pleased to be able to report some progress on these matters. Working with residents, I've been able to piece together statements coming to me on Facebook to identify the names and address of some of the people involved. Police believe that they have identified 2 further people. Another was stupid enough to post himself posing with a dead animal on Snapchat, which is now also in the hands of the police. Others have been filmed by brave residents who have stood up for the park. And I sincerely hope that all of the people who have been involved in doing this will be caught, prosecuted, and where applicable, that the provisions of the Animal Welfare Act 2006 will be engaged to permanently block these people from ever owning pets again in their lives. Yesterday, I had confirmation that my community trigger application for an ASB case review has met the threshold to proceed, and I look forward to representing the concerns of residents, including the concerns about the lack of policing response as part of this process. In previous meetings, there have been suggestions that the work that I have done was actually done by the Labour Party, so I'm also asking the panel to FOI all of the inboxes of all councillors to ask who reported what and when. As a later question in this meeting indicates, I was directly told by a senior officer of this council that upon the occasion of the 5th fire taking place in the park, I was the only person of elected members or members of the public to actually report this. And so a key message to the public has to be that when they see these things happening, they must take to the police first, not to Facebook. Barnes Park will become safe again for residents, and I ask colleagues to support the return of a dedicated park warden in particular in order to support that. Turning to Chester Road, the council knows that this is a problem area for multiple reasons. Illegal parking, speeding, fly tipping, drug dealing and robbery are just some of them. The council response on fly tipping has been rapid, even if not fully effective, but its response on illegal parking has been totally inefficient and insufficient. Much more needs to be done to reverse the sense of decline in this area, often caused by people who don't live in High Barnes, but whose actions have dramatically worsened the state of the area for the residents who do. Labour's mantra that we can't arrest our way out of crime is totally tone deaf in light of the actions that residents actually want to see. Our proposal is that crime and community safety should become the #1 priority of the council's most senior team, and that people should once again feel that they belong to a law-abiding, high-trust, zero-tolerance society. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Mullin. Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I feel that Sunderland stands at a bit of a crossroads here, because the Conservative motion before us today calling for a crime emergency responds to what I think, certainly yourself, with being a member for Barnes Park, would see as an escalation of all these different sorts of criminal behaviour, drug dealing, antisocial behaviour, speeding, just to name a few of the issues that undermine our city's safety and pride. These are not isolated incidents. It's a crisis that requires a bold and punitive response. Now, as a city centre ward councillor for St Michael's, I'm well aware of issues of drug dealing and graffiti that occur, usually around hotspot areas in the quite urban core, but it's starting to go well beyond that to the far more sort of quiet suburban residential areas. And the smell of the stench of weed has just become, it's basically everywhere. I recall on Monday when Councillor Mullen and I were in Barnes Park at about 11 a.m. with the BBC, we just got a strong whiff of cannabis in front of families. This was the middle of the day, and I counted there was 10 council staff members, because there's the depot in Barnes Park, as I'm sure you're aware, Mr. Mayor, and I will be quite curious, and hopefully the community trigger will bring this through with the panel, how many of those members of staff, because they must have smelt it, actually reported that behaviour, and did they do anything about it? There's a sort of cultural shift that I think we all need to take responsibility for to be able to address this. Antisocial behaviour is appallingly common, with women being harassed in the town centre, older people afraid to walk the street, and community assets being destroyed or vandalised, trees ripped out, bins set on fire, benches smashed up, and everything graffitied. And of course we come on to speeding, an area that the council has been handicapped to do anything for years, and I make the point here that that was not necessarily through the council's own doing, but we need to move ahead with this. Speed cameras not working have meant we have been limited to vehicle-activated signs to try to tackle speeding, which means in our attempts to deal with boy races, we've literally resorted to an electronic frowny face. That's all that we could do in some cases. We need to do more. When the Road Safety Partnership is finally up and running, we need to move at pace to replace the old cameras that don't work and get brand new ones in place. Our motion also makes clear that we need a far more punitive approach, acting as far as the law allows to punish offenders. Criminals need to actually fear the consequences of their actions in Sunderland. Many of us will have read the article in the Sunderland Echo the other day with a certain level of embarrassment, as fines given out by Sunderland Council for dog fouling paled in comparison to other neighbouring councils. Newcastle Council gives an average fine of £273 for dog fouling, whereas Sunderland only give an average of 54. Now, whilst it is the police, within the police's powers to undertake criminal prosecutions, the powers we have as a council should be wielded far more harshly to those who lay waste to our streets and are punished. In order to ensure the continued safety and security of Sunderland, we really need to rethink how we tackle these things in Sunderland for a safer city. Now, there is a point to be emphasised in this motion as well, which is that we need the police to be more accountable and visible to local councillors. This is where the 7th bullet point of the motion is relevant, as we need a full council update and a review of their policing priorities, because honestly, I don't know what they are focusing on. Is it speeding, burglary, theft, antisocial behaviour? Because they're not doing anything about any of them. Other police forces are making dramatic moves to tackle these. In Cleveland Police, they're making a very visible show of crushing these off-road bikers, clamping down on it, and they've seen a reduction in numbers. Did I say crushing the bikers? Oh, thank you, Councillor Sped. Crushing the off-road bikes, not the bikers. Thank you. I almost got in trouble there. Now, something needs to be done to tackle this emergency, because we cannot be seen, as one resident told me when I was knocking on doors in Tunstall, to be a soft touch anymore. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Reid. I understand that Councillor Mordy wishes to move an amendment. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, just before I move the amendment, can I just welcome the family and friends of Gloria Stevenson to the committee and pass on the condolences of the Labour group to what is an absolute tragic circumstances, and hopefully I'll have a bit more to say on what we're trying to do to ensure that what happened to your family never happens to another family in the city of Sunderland. Mr. Mayor, the amendment is as follows: to change the title of the motion to Tackling Crime and Antisocial Behaviour in Sunderland. In the first sentence, after declares, delete the remaining text and replace with declares that tackling crime and antisocial behaviour is a top priority for residents of Sunderland and that residents want to see action taken to address their concerns. In the second paragraph, that reads, Council notes that it has been insert a second paragraph that reads, Council notes that it's been very difficult over the last 15 years for the Council and partners to sufficiently tackle crime and antisocial behaviour due to the severe austerity cuts inflicted on both the City Council and Northumbria Police by the previous coalition and Conservative governments. Insert a third paragraph that reads, Council further notes and welcomes the fact that due to the hard work and dedication of frontline council staff and neighbourhood police teams, in the 2024 resident survey, 90% of Sunderland residents said they feel safe in their local area during the day, a 13% increase on 2023, and that 63% said they feel safe in their local area after dark, a 22% increase from 2023. Replace the preamble to the first bullet point with, however, despite these positive improvements, Council notes that many residents of Sunderland still have concerns with respect of crime and antisocial behaviour, which include but are not limited to, in the first bullet, delete Barnes Park in recent weeks. In the second bullet point, delete the words regrettable and replace with heartbreaking and tragic. Replace the third bullet point with concerns about tackling speeding and illegal parking. In the fourth bullet, delete the word masses and replace with anger and frustration with. In the fifth bullet, delete the words and feeds into a sense of society with no rules. After the first set of bullets, add the following two paragraphs. Council welcomes the investment of £1 million into tackling crime and antisocial behaviour in Sunderland, made by the Cabinet at the most recent Council budget meeting, which means that we will have 6 ESB community hubs working with local communities on tackling the issues listed above. Council resolves to request that the Cabinet continues to work with partners such as Northumbria Police to expand successful operations such as Operation Capio, which was set up to tackle and deal with off-road and illegal bikes. Amend the first bullet in the second section to say the Cabinet should continue to make tackling ESB, preventing speeding and illegal parking a priority. Amend the second bullet to say that the Leader of the Council should write to the Police and Crime Commission and the Chief Constable to request a meeting to discuss policing in Sunderland, and that the Leader should update Council in a future Leaders' update on the outcomes of that meeting. Delete the fourth and the fifth bullet points. Therefore, Mr Mayor, the amended motion reads in full as tackling crime and antisocial behaviour in Sunderland. Council declares that tackling crime and antisocial behaviour is a top priority for residents of Sunderland and that residents want to see action taken to address their concerns. Council notes that it has been very difficult over the last 15 years for the Council and partners to sufficiently tackle crime and antisocial behaviour due to the severe austerity cuts inflicted on both the City Council and Northumbria Police by the previous coalition and Conservative governments. Council further notes and welcomes the fact that due to the hard work and dedication of frontline council staff and neighbourhood police teams in the 2024 resident survey, 90% of Sunderland residents said they feel safe in their local area during the day, a 13% increase on 2023, and that 63% said they feel safe in their local area after dark, a 22% increase from 2023. However, despite these positive improvements, Council notes that many residents of Sunderland still have concerns with respect of crime and antisocial behaviour, which include but are not limited to instances of arson, vandalism, drug taking and ESB, a worsening situation with off-road and illegal bikes, most recently including the tragic and heartbreaking death of an innocent woman, Gloria Stevenson, concern about tackling speeding and illegal parking, anger and frustration with fly tipping dumped with no regard to our communities, and graffiti which blights local areas. Council welcomes the investment of £1 million into tackling crime and antisocial behaviour in Sunderland made by Cabinet at the most recent Council budget meeting, which means we will have 6 new ESB community hubs working with, 6 ESB community hubs working with local communities on tackling the issues listed above. Council resolves to request that the Cabinet continues to work with partners such as Northumbria Police to expand successful operations such as Operation Capio, which was set up to tackle and deal with off-road and illegal bikes. In response to this, Council agrees that the Cabinet should continue to make tackling ESB, preventing speeding and illegal parking a priority, that the Leader of the Council should write to the Police and Crime Commissioner and the Chief Constable to request a meeting to discuss policing in Sunderland, and that the Leader should update Council in a future Leaders' update on the outcomes of that meeting. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Point of order.
Councillor Mullen, on what rule?
15.7.1 again, please.
Do you believe that this negates the motion? Is that what you're trying to say?
It does negate the motion for the following reasons. First of all, it changes the title, which is about declaring a crime emergency. That phrase is removed altogether. That is the sole purpose of it. It takes out reference to Barnes Park, which is the core reason for bringing this motion to Council. It removes our policy proposals to make this the priority of senior officers, and it then adds in things about community safety which weren't in the original. So this is now a different motion about general ASB. It's not a response to what's been happening in Barnes Park, as I phrased it.
Councillor Mullen, would you give me 1 minute while I seek some advice? Thank you.
Point of order, Mr Mayor. Just on the issue of Councillor
Yes, Leader.
Mullen raises, he refers to this negating the motion, and he talks about how it includes Barnes Park, but the title of the motion is Sunderland's Crime Emergency. So the purpose of the amendment from the Labour group is to make it about Sunderland and not about Barnes Park. I just wanted to feed that into the deliberations you had with the officers.
Thank you very much, Leader. Council, I have sought advice and I have made a decision. Although this does change the tone of some of the points of the motion, the amendment is still valid. Thank you. Councillor Checker, do you second the amendment?
I second the amendment, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Modi, do you want to speak to the amendment?
I do, Mr Mayor. Thank you very much. First of all, I want to say the Labour group absolutely accepts the premise of most of the content that's in the motion. And I just want to address specifically the issue of off-road motorcycles. This is an increasing concern to me. It's an increasing concern to the Labour group, and we are absolutely committed to addressing it. We funded through a number of area committees, Operation Capio, which is a dedicated unit of Northumberland Police to tackle this issue. And the latest figures I have in relation to what the operation has done so far is that there's been 1,375 proactive patrols, 51 nights of action, 1,607 callbacks to complaints, 79 site visits to look at designing out opportunities for crime, 79 homes visited and 85 orders served, 213 vehicles seized and 110 people arrested, and we've engaged with 1,000 young people via schools. I wanted to put that on the record, Mr Mayor, because I don't want anyone to be under the illusion that there's nothing being done by the council and by partners to tackle this. And what happened to Mrs Stevenson was an absolute tragedy. And as I said at the beginning, the Labour group sends our wholehearted condolences to her friends and family, to say that we are absolutely committed to working with Northumberland Police to look at ways we can expand that operation to cover more areas and to do more, because tackling off-road bikes and illegal e-scooters is a concern. It absolutely is. We hear it in our ward surgeries, we see it when we're out door knocking, and I just want to inform council and the public that we take this very, very seriously. We will work with Northumberland Police to expand that operation to clamp down on this scourge. We did call on the previous government to bring in further regulation to help us in that plight. That wasn't forthcoming at the time. It's something that we will continue to deliver the current government because the enforcement powers that we have in relation to this is they're not sufficient, in my opinion. I think in the meeting, if we pass the motion tonight, but if in the meeting that we have with Northumberland Police, it's something I've raised previously with Susan, done with who is the PCC, to request, it's my view, that Northumberland should change their approach to pursuit of these. Other police forces do it around the country. It is an issue, and this is one thing, if we do have the meeting, on the result of this motion, it'll be put into the police about changing the way they operate. As a council, we've invested significantly in a series of drones, because it is the policy at the minute in the Northern Police is not of non-pursuit. But what we have got, we've got 5 drones and 5 pilots trained within the City Council. So when we do get reports of off-road bikes, we can get a drone up in the air, we can follow it from a distance, we can see where it goes, and then the police, as the figures I've said earlier on, can then go in, make a seizure, make an arrest. But that's something I want to see Northumberland Police do more proactively, working in partnership with the City Council. As I said in the point of order, Mr Mayor, absolutely understand the points around Barnes Park. It is concerning, it is worrying, and I know for a fact that yourself, as a ward councillor, and Councillor Tobin, as a ward councillor, have been in regularly and spoken to myself and the Deputy Leader about this issue, so that when we have our one-to-one meetings with officers and one-to-one meetings with the police, we can absolutely feed in them concerns. It doesn't need meetings like this type. As we've said previously, not just me, but the rest of the Cabinet, our doors are always open. If there's an issue, come and speak to us. We shouldn't I wouldn't want any councillor in this chamber on the opposite side of the chamber to say they have to wait for a meeting of full council to put a question into council to get a response. I'm in this building almost every day from 8:30 in the morning till about 6, 7 o'clock at night. The door's open, it's on the 6th floor. Come and see us. The other thing I want to raise, Mr Mayor, is the general thrust of the original amendment around crime and antisocial behaviour in the city. As I've said, the recent resident survey shows that satisfaction with people's local area is significantly improved in the latest resident survey, but I don't want to diminish the feelings in some of our communities around the feelings of crime. And this is something I've witnessed as a ward member for a number of years. The actual facts and the stats and the statistics can say one thing, but the perceptions of crime are often different. And that's something we want to address through our engagement work that we've started on the back of the cohesion work. Something I might add, the both parties opposite wanted to delete the money to do that engagement work, to address them feelings of concern. So this is something that the Labour group is absolutely committed to. But I just wanted to point out a couple of things. I went away last night and this morning as well and looked at some of the police reports that are given to area committees. And I'll start with my own area. Councillor Reid was with me at the East Area Committee last night. In the Sunderland Central area, City Centre, Millfield, Ashbrook, total crime is 9% down from last year in that section, Mr Mayor. In the Hendon, Grangetown and Riot, it's 8% down. In the north area where Councillor Hartnack represents, in the west area, there's a 0% reduction. Crime's been flat across Barnes, Pally and Sandhill and St Anne's, and in the north area, antisocial behaviour is down 20%. So the purpose of the amendment is to say we absolutely understand the concern, the priorities of the people of Sunderland, and we are trying our utmost to address it. But for the opposition to come to this council chamber and trying to paint every single part of Sunderland to be beset with crime is just completely not borne out by the facts. And the last thing I want to say before I sit down, Mr Mayor, is that as this Labour group demonstrated at the budget meeting in March, we absolutely responded to the requests of the people of Sunderland to tackle this issue. We put £1 million into the budget to create 3 new antisocial behaviour hubs in 3 of the areas of the city that has the highest levels of reports of crime and council environmental issues. So next week we'll be launching public consultation on new hubs in Hendon, in Concord, in Washington and in Pennywell. On top of them 3 new hubs, Mr Mayor, we have mainstreamed the hubs at Zara in Southwick, Halo in Easington Lane and Hetton, and the SEAL team in the city centre. That is a firm commitment backed up by action from this Labour group, from this council to address these issues. Is that the limit of our ambition? Absolutely not. We want to go further and we will go further when hopefully the review that I mentioned in my latest update, more resource is given to this council. My ambition is that these hubs are the start and that we can get new community facilities, new community venues in more than in 5, maybe 10 new other places to show that we can absolutely, we're on the side of the residents of this city. We understand their concerns. We will address them by expanding Capio. We will put a community at the heart of these hubs, and then together, across party, hopefully, we can get to the point where we can drive down antisocial behaviour and crime on behalf of all of the residents we seek to represent. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Modi. Councillor Checker, do you wish to speak to the amendment?
Yes, please, Mr Mayor. And like the leader, I would also like to pass on my wholehearted condolences to Mrs Stevenson's family. Clearly, I would like to amplify the leader's comments here this evening. This Labour group and this council is absolutely committed to tackling crime and antisocial behaviour because we know that this is the top priority for the residents of Sunderland. That's why last year the leader appointed me into the role of Cabinet Member for Safer Communities, because we know that residents want to see action taken to address their concerns, and we are taking that action right here, right now, and that is also why we committed that additional £1 million into this work. But I don't think the scale of the challenge over the last 15 years has been fully appreciated by the people opposite. The severe austerity cuts inflicted on both the City Council and Northumbria Police by the previous coalition and Conservative governments has made it impossible over the last 15 years for the Council and partners to sufficiently tackle crime and antisocial behaviour. But despite that, I am really proud of our boots on the ground team in community safety, environmental services and neighbourhood policing, including Neil Hogarth and Michelle Coates, as previously mentioned. Their tireless work and commitment day in, day out cannot be commended enough. And I'm also really pleased that their work has been recognised in the 2024 resident survey, with a huge increase in Sunderland residents saying they feel safer in their local area. We will never shy away from this challenge. Tackling antisocial behaviour, preventing speeding and illegal parking is a priority, and that's why we invested that £1 million, that support into our new multi-agency, partnership-led community safety hubs, building on the fantastic work of the SARA project and my ward in Southwick. We will soon have 6 of these across the city, and I'm really looking forward to launching the consultations on these next week. Councillor Mullin, I do feel like I have to correct you on your factual inaccuracy around this as the Cabinet Member for Safer Communities. The fact is, I was surprised that you were the only councillor in Barnes not to have contacted me around Barnes Park. And I'm very, very happy if you want to put in an FOI, and I will happily share my inbox with you around that, because it's been extremely disappointing, I have to say. However, next week is National Antisocial Behaviour Awareness Week, and therefore I want to reaffirm again here today this Council and this Cabinet and this Labour Group's commitment to take a firm stance against antisocial behaviour, because we recognise that feeling safe where you live and work is extremely important to our residents. We recognise that safe communities are a top priority for the people of Sunderland, and we will work collaboratively with partners across the city, including the police, health services, education providers, youth offending teams, probation services, Gen 2, businesses, community groups and voluntary organisations. We understand the lasting impact antisocial behaviour can have, not only on individuals, but on the wider community, and that's why we take a proactive, partnership-led approach. And I will say again, we take great pride in the work of our multi-agency projects, such as SARA in Southwick, SAIL in the city centre and HALO in Hetton, and we continue to see the positive outcomes that these initiatives deliver. These results demonstrate the real and lasting impact of focused collaborative work, and for that reason I second the amendment, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Checker. We have received prior notice to speak on the motion, which has been received from Councillors Fagan, Edgeworth and Hartnack. Does anyone else wish to speak on the amendment?
Councillor Butler. Councillor Ty. Councillor O'Brien. Councillor Tobin. Councillor Heron. Councillor Feely. Councillor Dixon. So, Mr Mayor, we have Councillors Fagan, Edgeworth, Hartnack, Butler, O'Brien, Tobin, Heron, Feely and Dixon, with the right of reply to Councillor Mullin.
Councillor Fagan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Firstly, I would like to extend our sincere condolences to Gloria's family from the Lib Dem group who were here, to Gloria's family who were here today. My colleague Paul Gibson and I were deeply saddened to hear of Gloria's passing. We had both met Gloria on several occasions while out and about in the area, and she was always friendly and chatty. In fact, I'd only spoken to her in the street just a week before this terrible incident. Antisocial behaviour and crime, as highlighted in this motion, are genuine concerns for residents across our city. In recent months, we've seen noticeable rise in complaints, particularly around the use of off-road bikes and e-bikes. These bikes are causing significant disruption, and residents are understandably feeling more anxious about their presence and the risk they pose in our neighbourhoods. The phrase I hear all too often is, "It's getting worse around here," and I'm sure I'm not alone in hearing this. It's a reflection of the growing unease, and it's something we must take seriously and get a grip of. While it's important that residents report these incidents to the police and the Council's ASB team, it's equally vital that they see a positive outcome from their efforts. Without visible results, people need to begin to feel disheartened and often say it's pointless, nothing gets done about it anyway. And then this leads to a drop in reporting and the cycle starts all over again. As councillors, we encourage residents to speak up and keep reporting issues. But it's disappointing when they come back to us at a later point and say they heard nothing back and the problems are continuing or even getting worse. How do you keep those residents motivated if they can't see any action coming from these reports and the efforts they've made? We need good quality follow-up and meaningful action, something that they can see, the bikes being crushed and such like. And this can only be achieved with a stronger focus and additional resources dedicated to tackling antisocial behaviour. Without that commitment, we risk losing the trust and engagement of the people we're trying to support. When Susan Dungwith was elected as PCC last May, she pledged to build a bigger policing presence in the neighbourhoods. So please, let's start to see this happening, as currently we have seen no improvements. Alongside that, the PCC needs to look at how we retain police officers. Too often as councillors we're informed if our local policing contacts are changing, coming and going before they've had an opportunity to build relationships within our communities. This constant turnover makes it difficult to deliver the kind of consistent, high-quality neighbourhood policing that residents deserve. As a council, we must increase the number of staff dedicated to tackling ASB. We must increase the number of staff dedicated to tackling ASB issues. We need to throw the kitchen sink at it, frankly, and do everything we can to try and get a hold of this problem. Residents are fed up of seeing bikes dangerously flying around the estate, often on footpaths outside of schools, tearing up playing fields and parks and endangering life and having zero regards to anyone's safety. They do this because they can get away with it. It will require a lot of resources from both the police and the council to get a grip of this issue, but I really do think it's got to a point where we have no other choice. These people are laughing in the faces of law-abiding residents, knowing they can do as they please and there will rarely be consequences. Aside from the extra resources we need to tackle this issue, we also need to help ourselves as a council. Often there are simple, practical deterrents available to us, such as putting fences up, placing boulders or installing barriers to block access for off-road bikes. Yet when we ask the council for such measures, these requests are turned down and instead refer to the ASB team, which is already overstretched and has very limited capacity to act. Just this week, a request to put fencing around a children's play park in the Doxford ward was rejected, despite repeated incidents of bikes weaving in and amongst the children while they were playing. While we absolutely want to stop these dangerous bikes at the source, we should also be taking some common sense steps to make areas less accessible for them. Doing so would not only improve safety, but also reassure people like parents that their children can play without the constant fear of being hurt or knocked over. We are facing a crime emergency on our streets. The fear, frustration and fatigue of our residents is real, and people are truly fed up. And I fear that it will only be a matter of time before residents take matters in their own hands, and I dread to think how that might end. As a council, we need to do better. That means increasing capacity of ASB staff, rethinking how we approach prevention and work harder to make our streets safer, and give our communities a reason to believe that we are listening and that we understand and that we are responding, not just with words, but with action and consequences for these criminals who are running amok in our city. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much. Councillor Edgeworth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We agree with the sentiment of the motion. We probably won't support the amendment, but would support an amended motion. The amendment mentions the statistics about feeling safe in your area. Could the leader look at those city centre statistics? Because they're still at 70% don't feel safe after dark, which is still worrying. So I think there's more we could and should be doing there, even if the neighbourhood areas have improved. Sorry? Well, it's not working because people feel unsafe still. I agree with the leader's comments about the pursuit and the police. That does come up on the doors quite a lot. Why do other police forces do that? So I wish him well in persuading the Police and Crime Commissioner on that. Is it true that the motorcycle ASB team is being disbanded? We've been told that officers have been told to return to their substantive teams, so if we could get some clarification on that, that would be useful. In my own ward, people are fed up with arson, vandalism, motorcycle disorder, drug dealing in plain sight, noisy vehicles, driving around at night, as Heather Fagan has said. People believe it's getting worse and that those responsible are constantly getting away with it. There's been a spate of grass fires in the Barnes Park extension in recent weeks, and much worse have been the arson attacks on the Grindon Lane Play Park in Springwell with items of equipment damaged beyond repair, which the council said there's no money to replace, and obviously local families with children are devastated. Their facilities are being ruined by vandals, and requests for extra CCTV go unanswered. Looking at the report and statistics, I think that's fine to look at the area committee statistics, but I don't think that paints a real picture. Firstly, residents are sick of reporting issues to the police and council, and if they feel that they're not getting any improvement or response and that things never change, then they stop reporting. In areas like Grindon and Thorney Close, there's often a culture of wariness to ring the police and report issues. When people are convinced to do it, reporting nuisance motorbikes, quad bikes, e-bikes in the Barnes Park extension up the Sandhills, they tell me that they've given up doing so because they think nothing ever changes. So I think this is something we really have to try and tackle, and I think one way we could do it is to ask the ASB team to improve ways of reporting motorcycle antisocial behaviour. I have raised this with officers at area committees, at scrutiny committees, but I think the form that is on the website at the moment is a general antisocial behaviour form that is quite complex, is really tailored towards kind of neighbour disputes, and if you're trying to use that for a reporting quickly motorcycle antisocial behaviour to kind of build up a picture of when and where it's happening, then that form isn't very good. Residents just don't and won't use it. And I think if we could look at some trials of different reporting methods by email, text, WhatsApp, anything else that we can build up a proper picture of how often and where it's happening, that would be helpful. We obviously believe that the council must use any and every means at its disposal to tackle crime and antisocial behaviour, but crucially that residents must be feeling that the council is doing it and being seen to do it too, which is crucial. And if we fail to get this right, then it's going to further undermine trust between residents and the council. So we will support the motion in any efforts that the Cabinet bring forward to improve things. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Hartnack.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and may I apologise in advance, but I may run very, very slightly over my 5-minute allocation of time in this instance, as I intend reading a short statement from the family of Gloria Stevenson. Imagine you are a lady or gentleman in Sunderland, going about your day-to-day business on Friday the 16th of May this year, taking your daughter's family dog for its regular walk in Silksworth, and you come to a zebra crossing where cars from both directions come to a gentle stop to allow you to cross. And as you step into the crossing, you are confronted by 2 balaclava-clad males on an unregistered, high-powered, illegal electric bike. The driver on his mobile phone and riding at speed on the wrong side of the road hits you, causing fatal injuries. Both on the bike falling off, but quickly remounting and then quickly accelerating away from the scene, leaving absolute carnage and devastation. Imagine the victim's devoted daughter, Lisa, quickly arriving at the scene along with the victim's grandson, Rhys, having to observe our highly skilled ambulance crew and North East ambulance team trying their very best in desperation to keep the victim alive. Mrs. Gloria Stevenson was sadly and tragically pronounced deceased at the scene less than 6 weeks ago, slaughtered by mindless, risk-taking idiots selfishly demonstrating a form of antisocial behaviour plaguing the entirety of Sunderland, and for which not enough is being done to prevent such illegal and feral behaviour by an increasing minority of individuals. Ironically, at the last full council meeting here on the 26th of March this year, I challenged Councillor Checker on this very point around the failure of Northumbria Police to properly and effectively address this problem through proactive methods. She responded, fair dues, by providing an update on the success of reactive activity by Northumbria Police, Operation Capio, which has, despite some police successes, has nevertheless failed to address the desperate concerns of the public to properly and effectively deal with the problem. I concluded my response to Councillor Checker by saying, and I quote, "It is only a matter of time before an innocent member of the public will be killed by one of these bikes." Little did I know that the lovely lady who was tragically killed on the day in question, 7 weeks after raising the matter in this very chamber, would be a lady who I knew well and was a very close lifelong friend of my family. Gloria Stevenson was a much-loved mother, grandmother and great-grandmother who was still in the prime of her life, living life to the full, keeping fit, mentally very active, participating in all aspects of community life and, amazingly, arranging her own long-haul travel across the globe with her grandchildren. Gloria was a kind and considerate lady who was loved by everyone she came into contact with, and along with almost 500 people who attended her funeral 2 weeks ago this coming Friday, I would like, on behalf of all members of this council, to offer our utmost regret and condolences to Gloria's family for their tragic loss. Please allow me to read out a short note from Gloria's family. Gloria was a much-loved mum, grandma, great-grandma and friend. Police reports of the death have described her as an elderly lady, but Gloria was very fit and active. She had years left to live, and her violent and untimely death has compounded our grief. One of the reasons why Gloria was loved by so many was because of her sense of fairness, of knowing the difference between right and wrong, and never being afraid to speak out for what she believed in. If Gloria was still alive, we know that she would support a campaign aimed at improving Sunderland, of making it a fairer, safer place for everyone to live. However, we, her family, very much hope that this will be a cross-party effort to achieve a positive legacy in memory of an amazing lady. So where do we go from here? This motion should not be a political issue. It is obvious to the majority of the people in Sunderland that crime, disorder and general lawlessness is out of control. We can't rely on reported crime figures, as has already been highlighted by Paul Edgeworth. The public are fed up that they can't get through, for example, on the 101 number. They're not reporting incidents because they can't simply get through. And when did Sunderland Council last make representation to the Police and Crime Commissioner with regard to the demands of Sunderland residents for a better service from Northumbria Police in tackling crime and disorder? When did the political hierarchy challenge Northumbria Police with regard to resource allocation of policing in Sunderland? I've said this before in this chamber, that I headed up the very department that determined policing resources across the force. And unlike politicians from Newcastle, Gateshead and Northumberland in particular, politicians from Sunderland never ever challenged the resource allocation of officers or methods of policing in Sunderland. And my recent inquiry suggests that Sunderland Council fails to contribute to the policing priorities for Northumbria Police. We need to get a grip of this, Council, and start to make an effort for the people we are elected to serve and forcibly challenge Northumbria Police to provide a service which meets the needs of the public. Why is it that Thames Valley Police, Hampshire Police, West Midlands Police, North Yorkshire Police, South Yorkshire Police and Staffordshire Police all now have proactive strategies to combat illegal off-road motorcycles and high-powered e-bikes? Why is it that Northumbria Police rely on advising the public that they can't do anything other than reactive investigations to combat the problem? Why is the council not doing more to work with retailers to dissuade them from selling these lethal machines? And why are we not putting pressure on national government to outlaw these bikes and punish offenders appropriately? I was pleased to note in the weekend press that discussions are currently taking place.
Could you wrap it up, please?
I was pleased to note the weekend press that discussions are currently taking place to impose life sentences on those who cause death when using these machines. Crime and antisocial behaviour has got out of control in parts of Sunderland, and we as a council have a responsibility to our residents to forcibly take this up with the Police and Crime Commissioner and ensure that her priorities are fit for purpose. Finally, can I say, Mr Mayor, I sincerely hope that no family in Sunderland has to suffer what Gloria's family have suffered over the past 6 weeks. But mark my words, unless you, the governing party in this city, do something, it will only be a matter of time before the next innocent victim, like Gloria, is slaughtered by these mindless, irresponsible thugs. So please, as Gloria's family have asked, help make Gloria's legacy a lasting one and ensure that we do the right thing by challenging Northumbria Police to do more than they're currently doing to proactively deal with this problem. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And again, pass on my sincere condolences as Councillor Hartnett was speaking there. I'd say that many of what I assume is Gloria's family were visibly upset, and I just kind of put myself in their shoes. It's awful. Just one minor point, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Mullen did mention the youths of this city, and I wouldn't be here standing representing them if I didn't bring this up. We can't have the Tories talking down all youths. We kind of tarnish them with the same brush. I've spoken to many, many students over the city in my role.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Cabinet.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. Yeah.
I
think I did reiterate. It's a minority of young people that are involved in this
Point of
particular
order,
crime
Mr. Mayor.
behaviour. Okay.
I did say Councillor Mullen, not Councillor Hartnack. I shall continue if that's okay, Mr. Mayor.
Well, point of order in that case, Mr. Mayor. I was referring to the specific individuals identified, not all of Sunderland's youth. You should have listened, Michael.
Okay.
Councillor Butler, if you'll continue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That wasn't the words that he said. So I've spoken to dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of students and youths across this city. I've coached many youths over the years. Can he agree, in which I think he does? He's just checking his notes there. I was listening. I've got a really good memory, Anthony. The vast majority of youths are an absolute asset to this city. He's furiously scribbling now, but I'm sure he would agree that he did mean the minority of youths of this city. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Point of order.
Thank you very much, Councillor Butler. Councillor Mullen, on what rule, if you don't mind me
Personal
asking?
clarification, Mr. Mayor. I have checked my notes, and I did say the actions taken by thugs and feral youths. So it's the ones that commit those acts, not all of them.
Thank you for your clarification, Councillor Mullen. Councillor O'Brien.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. And can I just place on record my sincere condolences to Gloria's family for the loss of who seemingly was a great woman. Just to pick up on what Michael said about reporting, it would be remiss of me not to... This is more of a constructive criticism, Michael, rather than a political one. It'd be remiss of me not to highlight a couple of things. If you look at the Great Manchester Combined Authority, they did a study exploring public confidence in the police. There was a mass under-reporting of crime by those who live in really deprived areas. Just because there seemingly is a flat line of crime doesn't mean crime exists, especially in those who are predominantly socially, economically deprived, and those people experience crime significantly more so than those who live in leafy areas. I think that's an important point to get across, is that although places like Thorny Close aren't reporting crime, it's not because crime isn't happening, it's because either they're scared or they just go, what's the point? And that's all I really wanted to add, is that there's a lot of studies on that. I think it's, if Michael can maybe put that in, I might have been able to support it, but nevertheless. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Fiona Tobin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I also give my sincere condolences to Gloria's family. I won't speak for too long, but I will say a few things in response. I am speaking in support of the amendment, and I want to thank residents for the reporting that they have been doing. These issues that are happening they're mindless, and they shouldn't be tolerated. They are
some of them are quite happening quite a lot in the park and in other places. And as I said, we are listening, we are doing our best to pull together and work really joined up. And as the leader has said, there are some plans coming forward on the back of this, which is why I'm speaking in support of the amendment. We do work really proactively in the Barnes ward when we're out door knocking and speaking to residents, in person. We're speaking to residents about what they feel about crime and antisocial behaviour, particularly around the park. And we work closely with officers, we work closely with community groups, as well as in the West Area Committee, so that we can reassure residents that there is a small minority, as we have said, of this happening in the park. And just on the Chester Road element, which is what I wanted to kind of rise to say, Councillor Hack and myself have pulled together with council officers and police a traders association on the back of the increased crime and antisocial behaviour happening on Chester Road. We've had meetings about this. We've got a WhatsApp group that's really active, and it's led to further CCTV to reassure residents and reassure traders and business holders that we're working together on this and really showing a joined up, hard-working approach to this. We are out, speaking to residents in person, and I will echo that we need to encourage the reporting, because Councillor Mullen is right, putting it on Facebook doesn't always mean that it is actually getting reported to the right place. But we are doing what we can on that as well. And I want to reassure residents that, as I say, we're joining up and listening and making sure we can all enjoy places like Barnes Park and use it in a safe way, in a positive way, particularly when we've got our events coming up this weekend, which people have worked really, really hard for. And I want to reassure residents that we're working closely on this together. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Tobin. Councillor Martin Heron.
Sorry, thank you, Mr Mayor. Again, I will begin by also expressing my condolences to Ms Stevenson's family and friends. And I agree that no one should lose their life due to such a senseless, selfish act. And I hope the perpetrators do feel the full extent of the law. I note that as well as their newfound interest in culture, tourism and heritage, Sunderland Conservatives are now concerned about crime, law and order after their government savagely cut police numbers and drove out thousands of experienced officers through draconian pension changes. Amazingly, they seem unable to draw a straight line between over a decade of austerity and the inevitable outcome of a rise in antisocial behaviour, increased crime and fear of crime. I could go on about the disastrous damage done to our country, our police and our vital services by the Conservatives, but I am mindful, Mr Mayor, that these meetings are only 3 hours long.
Thank you very much, Councillor Heron. Councillor Feely.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And may I just associate my remarks with everyone for the families of Gloria Stevenson. My father is a retired police officer, so this is a topic that I have a lot of experience on, hearing stuff over the years. And in my ward, we've had quite a lot of issues, particularly lately with antisocial behaviour and crime. Washington South is on the county lines with Durham, and one of the main issues we have on the cycle path is to do with off-road bikes. It is a big challenge for the police in particular to be able to get people when you're on county lines, as we've got 2 different police forces, and quite often we have people coming all the way from Beamish, all the way to Washington, and all the way up to Sunderland and back on the bikes. So I am very much aware that the council and the police have done a lot of work on this. One point I really want to reiterate about speeding. This has got to be the #1 thing that comes up when I speak to my residents. Speeding is just, it's an absolute nightmare for all of us. I think everyone in this chamber will acknowledge that speeding vehicles are very, very dangerous. And it only takes one occasion for something to go wrong. Now, I will obviously reiterate the point that the Welsh Government did put in 20 miles an hour speed limits. I won't go too much into that for Councillor Reid's sake. But I would like to also point out, as discussed previously, around the austerity effects with the police, having known from my dad, how many good police officers were obviously lost. But at the same time, I think it's worth commending the police that we do have, because whenever there is danger, the police are the first set to put their lives on the line, as we saw last year in the riots. But the moment things got out of hand, the police were there, and I think it's really worth acknowledging that the efforts that the police continually go to put themselves on the line. Whenever there's danger, they run towards it whilst we run away from it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Phil-Tighe, did you wish to speak? Apologies for missing you, Councillor Phil-Tighe. We'll let you speak.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, and I am going to have to be careful what I say, because what I don't want to do is prejudice the case of the perpetrator, and to ensure that Mrs. Stevens Glory actually gets the justice and the family get the justice they deserve. And I am going to speak solely on that as a Silksworth councillor. And I think, ironically, and I think it's worth the family hearing this, ironically, at the March Area Committee, we actually raised and had significant discussions around off-road motorcycles, and especially Surons and electric e-bikes. And we, as the three Silksworth councillors, we were able to get cross-party support at the area committee for that, to fund some improvements to Silksworth ski slope, because I've been really vocal at area committee at LMAPs and across the community that the use of these bikes, you've just got to see it for yourself. We can't hide the fact that the travelling up and down Blind Lane from Doxford Park, from Silksworth, from Thorny Close, in areas, and travelling predominantly to places like the Sandhills and the ski slope, to what they perceive as fun. And Gloria crossing a crossing and going about her lawful business to be taken away by a mindless thug is completely unacceptable, not just to you as a family, but to us as councillors as well. And there has to be something, a lasting legacy for that, and I'm keen to talk to the family with colleagues at some point to see what that lasting legacy can be if they so wish, and how we can do something, because we need to do something. So the work that we undertook before this incident was, we've actually fully enclosed the skate park at Silksworth, because what was happening is that being the law-abiding young people that use that facility had been pushed out so the Surons could use it, the electric motorbikes could use it as an area to dominate. And we thought that if we could stop them going to an area, stop them going there, stop the attraction, then it would reduce. We also want to put trenches around the ski slope, because they're running up and down the ski slope and using it as a ski run. And this is not a lie, this is actual fact, and we both ward colleagues are here. And we need to be better as well. The council do need to be better, and we will get better, and we will not give up the fight. We weren't able to put trenches in case one of these people fell off. So we were protecting the perpetrators and not the victims. And that is completely wrong, and I will take it up directly with the Chief Executive and have that discussion, because I know officers has gone away to try and find a way to make that happen. But I'm also aware at the Sandhills he's wanted to do something very similar to stop this. What I wouldn't say is that they're not trenches to stop the bags, to stop the trenches to carry the flood water. So there shouldn't be any reason that we can't put them in. But I want to end, and I did say this at area committee for those colleagues that were at area committee as well, and I'm going to say it loudly, and I hope this is picked up. The parents of these children and young people have got to have some accountability for what's happening in this city. You cannot... You cannot pay £3,000 to £5,000 for one of these death traps made in China, stick it on the street with your son on it, and think that you've got no accountability for what you're doing, because you are. It's like giving a knife man a knife. They're going to stab someone. So please, parents across this city, take note that we've had one tragic accident. It's not an accident. And I've got to be careful, sorry, Mr. Mayor. and we shouldn't allow it to happen again. We've got to do something about it. If parents have got these and they've got them in the houses, get rid of them. You do your bit and we'll do our bit as well. But you cannot let your children and young people ride out of your house and think everything's okay, out of sight, out of mind, because it's just not. It's not acceptable at all. And you have to do your own parental responsibility and take it on your own shoulders as well. Because I am going to say it, if it happens again, that parent, if that's what you're allowing, you've got blood on your hands as well.
Thank you very much, Councillor Tyne. Sorry for not acknowledging you earlier. Councillor Michael Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just going to speak very briefly, actually. I'm not a great fan of statistics, but Michael Mordy was a little bit not quite accurate yesterday because referring to the East Area Committee, because whilst the police figures did flatline, there was a terrific amount of increase in arson attacks, Michael, in St Michael's ward and other wards. So there is an issue there, and I think we've got to acknowledge that. I'm basically going to just concentrate on speed cameras. This is something which is linked to this terrible incident, and it was very moving to hear Michael Hartnack speak on behalf of the family today. But we're looking here at a city where the speed cameras don't work, and we're looking at this road safety partnership between Northumbria Police and the various local authorities. We're 1 year into a Labour government, and I must ask, what is happening? Now, at the Economic Scrutiny Works Programme meeting that we had, I raised this as been an issue to discuss. I spoke, and Councillor Leonard was there, and I got the distinct impression that this was going to be something that she wouldn't be able to really give us an update on until well into the council year. Now, this has been going on for a long time. Councillors can put their VAS signs up, vehicular activated signs. We can ask Northumbria Police to do their mobile speed cameras, but we need action. We need action on busy roads, on Essen Way, on Leechmere Road, next to Hillview School, further back on Premier Road. And this is a disgrace, absolute disgrace. Now, when I ask about it, we're told it's Northumbria Police's fault, and then maybe it's Gateshead Council, who's not quite as good as we could be. What is happening? And I think it's up to this council to get a grip on this situation. I really do. This is not party political. This is about all our streets, Labour, Conservative, Liberal, Democrat. And it is an issue which is linked to the tragedy. And I would ask the leader, the portfolio holder, to get a grip on this situation. Because as things stand at the moment, it's total inertia. And when residents ask us what's happening, I haven't got a clue what to say. So please, can we have some action?
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Under what rule, Leader, if you don't mind me asking?
The same one Anthony couldn't remember earlier on. So I just want to respond to the point that Councillor Dixon raised there around the Safer Roads Partnership, and to say I absolutely fundamentally agree with you. It is not good enough that this partnership took us so long to get the bloody thing back in the first place after a previous Police and Crime Commissioner 2 ago sent me and Harry Truman a letter on Christmas Eve to say that he was pulling out of it. Councillor Leonard was recently at a meeting, and we had a meeting beforehand, and she absolutely went to that meeting and said how disappointed we are at Sunderland City Council that it's taken far too long to get this partnership up and running. So I can absolutely assure you that we are, as a council, one partner in a partnership of the other councils in Northumbria, are bitterly disappointed at the time it's taken to get this partnership up and running, and we are doing as much as we can, but you can only move as fast as your slowest partner. But we are absolutely committed to giving all partners a kick with the backside to get this up and running so we can make an improvement on our roads in this city.
Point of order. Clarification. Yeah, I just want to reiterate what Michael said. He beat me to the button, really, and that it's a shame that we're probably not going to get to some of the questions, because I know Councillor Reid did have a specific question on the partnership, which I had an excellent answer for, but I do have an update, and if you want to stay behind later, I will speak to you about it. Thank you.
Councillor Mullen, you have the right of reply.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've made some notes on what people have said, but I want to start by agreeing with what Phil Tighe said in particular. The mineral line that runs behind Perth Road, then up towards Essenway roundabout and then into the city centre, is a core spine through the city into communities for off-road bikes. If the council was to do something in tackling that and stopping them using that, it would disrupt a main thoroughfare for bikes to use. The problem we have there is police cars can't get onto it. So they can't be pursued. They can get very quickly from McDonald's down to the city centre, and the police are having to navigate their way around different communities. By the time they get there, the bikes are there. Yeah, absolutely. I'll just correct Kelly. I'm sure the other Neil is worthy of praise, but I did mention Neil Corner, not Neil Hogarth. And she asked why I didn't come to her. I don't trust you. It's as simple as that. Now, I will just say that they've been talking about funding to police, etc. But when police numbers in Northumbria went up, crime went up along with it. So Kim McGuinness had more police officers and the crime rate went up. And that wasn't because of anything other than the mentality, you cannot arrest your way out of crime, coupled with an audition to be mayor when she should have been doing the job of police and crime commissioner. The responses to community safety surveys are so low as to make them worthless. And equally, as others have already pointed out, it's no good saying that crime's getting better because the reporting rate's gone down, because that does, as Stephen suggested, actually relate to a distrust in the police or a lack of feedback from the police. And it's difficult to do that when, as was the case last week, the 101 number didn't actually work and was immediately ringing off when people were picking up the phone. I think there are two messages, though, that I want to finish with. And the first is to say that when the public encounters crime, and this is what people have already said, but it's worth repeating, they should pick up the phone to 999 rather than thinking that it's 101 or nothing. If they're witnessing a crime as it's happening, particularly if there are drugs and off-road bikes and knives involved, that is worthy of a 999 call, and people shouldn't be afraid to do it. Not put it on Facebook and ask me to report it later or others to report it later, but ring in there and then and report that crime. But my second point is, whilst encouraging people to try and document what they can and to phone the police when they witness crime, don't try and be a vigilante. My worry about Barnes Park in particular is that the escalation has gone from bikes and drugs up to slingshots, which not small bits of wood with string around them, but lethal slingshots firing ball bearings, and knives to kill and cut open animals. Many will have seen Keir Starmer's favourite documentary, Adolescence. It doesn't really take many steps in between what's happening now and somebody being killed. The park is covered in darkness at night. If members of the public or other kids are challenging these people that they're seeing, I worry that somebody high on whatever they're taking could easily, even if accidentally, stick a knife in somebody and end up killing them. So I do not encourage vigilantism, even though I do encourage reporting, but that reporting does have to be direct to the police where it can be. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Mullen. We will now vote on the amendment.
Could the officer open the vote, please?
Since it's our amendment. Since it's our amendment. And nobody's doing it. Votes up.
The vote will be closing soon.
Councillor Snowden? Is it working now? Okay, that's brilliant.
Okay, can we close the vote, please? So we have 41 in favour of the amendment, 18 against, and the amendment is carried.
Thank you. Does any member wish, does anyone want me to read the new substantive motion? Brilliant. Does any member wish to comment further on the substantive motion? No. Is the substantive motion agreed? Brilliant.
Point of order, Mr Mayor. Under Section 1 Rules of Procedure, Part 14.1, Part... where was it gone? I'll get the agenda. It's somewhere on my list. Can I move, Mr Mayor, that we move item 13 to consider the following report on urgency decisions and appointments of committees and outside bodies to the next item of business before we close the guillotine, because I realise we're past 7 o'clock now.
Yes. Is that seconded?
I'll second that, Mr Mayor.
Thank you very much.
On a point of order, Mr Mayor, on the same rule, if we are moving to make sure we get through business, I think it would be useful if we could include reception of petitions for those members that have them, so they get submitted in the process.
Michael, Councillor Michael Moore, did you agree to that? So that's 8, 11 and 12. Petitions and item 13, is that correct? Councillor Kelly-Checker, do you second that?
Point of order, Mr
I
Mayor.
second that.
Or point of clarification.
On what rule, if you don't mind me asking?
It's just on the council procedure of members' questions. I thought it was constitutionally required to have so. If not, are we going to get written answers and responses, please?
Yeah. Yes, Councillor.
Yeah.
So, from what my understanding is, the questions from members of the public we are required to respond to, and they will get written responses. When it comes to questions from members of our members, the leadership have indicated that they will respond in writing. Is that correct, Michael? So, does that satisfy?
That's respectfully not what I'm asking. I'm asking, is it constitutionally required to have members' questions? Because on the rules of procedure, it outlines that it's constitutionally required and it allots 30 minutes to it.
Well, give me one moment while I just seek some advice on what you've asked, okay? Okay. Because we have met the time requirements of ending this meeting, that supersedes that.
Can I just get some clarification? Under what rule in the Constitution does it supersede it? Because as I'm reading the Constitution right now, my understanding is that there's no negating this situation. The 30 minutes is required for members' questions. And if that 30 minutes is not required, why is it in the rules of procedure? I can give you the...
Councillor, under Rule 8, Section 2, right, and 8.3, any further business when the time is concluded can be adjourned until the next meeting. That's my decision. It's final.
So clarification again.
No, I'm not going to have this back and forth with yourself.
No. I think it's
Councillor Stephen O'Brien.
No. Mr. Mayor, I think it's...
Councillor Stephen O'Brien.
Mr. Mayor.
Could we have this discussion outside the meeting? I've stood up.
Well, no.
Because the time has gone. It's not... We're not going to have a back and forth discussion when there's 100 people in this room and we've overrun right? So I just want to conclude, because some people have commitments, they need to go home. I'm just very respectful of that, okay? Thank you very much.
Point of order.
Councillor Paul Edgeworth.
Sorry to delay things further, but when this has previously happened, I think the public questions have been published or in some way circulated so that they're on the record, because people might want to hear what's being said. So if that could be considered, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
So, Councillor Paul Edgeworth, it's a brilliant question. The answer is yes. So those will be published. They do need to be answered. They will be answered. Okay, I hope that satisfies your question. Okay, so was that agreed? Agreed, yes. Okay. The next item is the reception of petitions. Do any members have petitions to present?
So we have Councillor Potts, Councillor Glancy, Councillor Haswell, Councillor Donkin, Councillor Bond, Councillor Walton.
Do they present them now?
Bring them in.
Councillor Fagan. Apologies. Councillor Potts.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I have a petition here that calls on Sunderland City Council to resurface John Candlish Road.
Thank you very much. Councillor Glancy.
Yes, I have a petition from Ryup Junior School to ensure safe parking outside the school building, and that's signed by 250 people. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Glancy. And also, could you pass on my thanks, because I know the children tried to lobby me directly upstairs when they visited. It was a brilliant act of democracy in play, and they also tried to lobby you as well, didn't they, Leader? Councillor Haswell.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'd like to submit a petition on behalf of residents of Brooklyn Road and Westwood Road, calling on the City Council to resurface their back lane. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Haswell. Councillor Donkin.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This is a petition from the residents around Plantation Road, Plantation Square and Warriner Street to resurface their back road, 20 people. It's a very small road, but it's important.
Thank you. Councillor Bond.
Thank you, Mayor. This is on behalf of Ben Hardy, who's a Lib Dem campaigner in Southwick, and it's to clean up Southwick streets and have more dog wardens. Sorry, that's Hardy IE.
Councillor Walton.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm presenting a petition on behalf of the Lib Dem campaigner Craig King for St Peters and Fulwell. It's a petition calling on Sunderland City Council to work with Stagecoach to reintroduce the 18 and 18A bus services. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Walton. Was there any more petitions to receive? Haven't missed anyone? No, brilliant. Can we agree to refer these to the appropriate chief officer? Agreed, brilliant. The next item tonight is reports, which include a report of the leader on the special urgency decisions and a report and supplementary report on appointments to committees and outside bodies. We will take these in turn, starting with the leader's report on special urgency decisions. Leader, would you please move the report?
I so move, Mr Mayor.
Deputy Leader, do you second the report?
I second the report, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Does the Council agree to receive the report? Next, we will deal with the report and supplementary report on appointments to committees and outside bodies. Leader, would you please move the reports?
I so move, Mr Mayor.
Deputy Leader, do you second the reports?
I second the report, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak on the report? No names. Are the reports agreed? Brilliant. That concludes the meeting. Thank you.